news in brief from the world of brand communication now. A Star Wars fan club in Tunisia going all out to attract new members just recently. Riding on the success of the Despicable Me 2 theme song Happy by Pharrell Williams, Star Wars fanatics are taking to the streets and to the internet to show their love for their favourite characters and inspire others to live out their film fantasy. We wonder if a little stunt like this would get you to join. You can let us know on our Facebook page. And the bespoke property realtor group Pam Golding has just launched a new lifestyle magazine that's apparently going to allow readers to indulge in the lifestyles of affluent homeowners right across the globe. It has an initial print run of 31,000, we're told, and the publication will be packaged with the niche arts magazine VC. Now, these days, any agency that is not operating optimally in the digital space is at a distinct disadvantage. I think that's a fair comment. While specialist agencies in this field are doing well, it's often the so-called traditional agency that is falling behind. Well, not so, it seems, with the Ogilvy Cape Town agency, who we visited on a quick trip to the mother city. Chris Gotts, first of all, thank you very much for hosting us here at Ogilvy in Cape Town, top floor, and it really is a hive of activity. I want to start off with this, if I can. Ogilvy Cape Town's become something of a benchmark, a leader in this whole notion of brand integration. What are you doing that other people aren't? How are you getting this right?
I think that a few years ago, when Gavin Levinson arrived here, we were going through a little bit of a rocky patch. We'd lost some clients. I think that we felt like creatively we'd fallen behind a little bit. And we decided to make some very cosmetic and constructive interventions in and around the agency in order to kind of get fighting fit again. So one of the things we did was we started the ODMA, the Ogilvy Digital Marketing Academy, with Dave Duarte, who came in, and we put the whole agency through really a digital academy that made us kind of ready for this new wave of stuff that was about to hit our industry and the communication industry.
But frightened as well. I mean, this is
well,
new frontier stuff.
I think there's two ways to look at this. You can either be excited or you can be frightened and think everything is terribly complicated. So we decided we were going to be excited about it, and I think that getting to know a little bit more about it and how to handle it made us excited and made us realize the possibilities that were available to us. And I guess we got used to doing it, and we got lucky on a few campaigns up front, and that kind of created this virtual circle of clients wanting us to do this kind of work, us presenting ever braver, more ambitious stuff that was very iterative. It kind of made itself up as it went along. So I think we got braver and braver, really.
We can talk about the strategy as far as something like this is concerned, but creatively, did you have to recalibrate the way in which you and your team thought in this respect?
Absolutely, because I think that we were an agency that was thinking like all of the other agencies. So we were thinking in channels. So we were solving problems in channels. So we were solving problems with television advertisements. We solved problems with print, radio, different media. I think that providing an integrated solution is coming up with an idea, presenting the idea to the client, and then kind of saying afterwards, well, how are we going to implement? And using whatever channels are suitable to implement the idea. And I think it's a much purer form of communication. And it's not being dictated to by media strategists from outside who's saying, okay, we bought some time, fill the time up. So, and I think it makes us a lot freer as an agency.
Let's move now from digital advertising to another take on this very over-traded concept, I would suggest, called branded content. Here's the question. How do you create a seamless and interesting consumer experience? Well, Spero Patricios is the managing director of a company called The Launch Factory. He's worked on well-known South African brands like Samsung, Eskom, Mini and Transnet, and joins us now to share some thinking. Welcome. Thank you very much for joining us. As I say, we hear this term bandied about all the time, branded content. Put it into some sort of context for us. What's your understanding?
Consumers consume media very differently. You know, with the advent of the internet and social media, we know that it's become very difficult for brands to engage consumers in that 30-second space. Of course, television is a powerful medium, so it's an opportunity for brands to create fantastic stories, and they don't necessarily have to be about the brand. So if you're a mobile provider, you don't have to really tell consumers about how to work a mobile. You've got to actually tell them a great story.
But as long as there's a link back to the brand in some respect, otherwise everyone's wasting their time.
Well, of course it is, but it depends. I suppose the way branded content's moved on is actually there's an end result. So, for instance, you could be talking to the community about education. So you're making great educational stories, but it's brought to you by Vodacom. As a brand, you've got to make television from a consumer's perspective. It's no longer from the brand's perspective, because you know what, you'll lose the consumer in a heartbeat.
I'm hearing you, but I'm also going to come right back at you and say that great storytelling has always been a hallmark of good brand communication. Isn't it all just the same, except we have far more channels on which to do it?
Absolutely it is. I don't think you can get away from the fact that it's storytelling, whether you're making 30 seconds or 30 minutes. Absolutely, that's the cornerstone of branded content. But you've got to keep that consumer interested. That viewer can switch or PVR you in a second. So if you haven't listened to their needs, you're out of their mind.
And that's the next interesting point. You say it all depends on what the consumer wants to see and what that consumer will relate to. That's very, very difficult to do in traditional advertising and marketing terms, let alone putting something out there in terms of branded content. It's not easy, is it?
It's not easy, but I suppose what you've got to do is you've got to look at and say, if you're competing in a market where there's a lot of international content, if you're making local content that's locally relevant and helping the community, you've got a winner.
And that's where I'm also a bit cynical. Does branded content always have to be altruistic? Does it have to have a motive in which it's going to help people? Surely it's just there for entertainment.
No, it doesn't actually always have to be. In fact, a lot of the stuff that we work on doesn't even have the brand in the name. So it's called Healthline. So the brand has created a TV brand. So you've got to focus on the viewer. And brands are starting to understand that. They don't actually have to have it. It's not called Vodacom Healthline. It's called Healthline, which is a TV brand made for the people.
And that's the key question. I would also say to you that brands don't always get that. The traditional brand thinking is I want to see some form of commercial communication with my name on it, and even better still, with my telephone number and my email address and my Twitter handle and my Facebook address.
You spot on. Yeah. And I think like anything in life, the innovators get it. And when the innovators get it and they get onto that and understand that principle, then they've got the viewer hooked.
So in conclusion, what questions then should a brand be asking of an agency like yours in order to optimize this particular communications model?
How are we going to engage our consumers in a way that we're going to keep them engaged and that they don't tune out, because they can tune out so quickly. So and the reality is, the answer to that, I'm going to answer my own question, is make television for the consumers and take away your brand from it completely. Make a TV brand that sits on that medium for the consumer.
And I would ask you not to tune out too quickly. Spero Patricios from the Launch Factory. Interesting insights. Thank you very much for joining us. Next up on Mags on Media, he left South African shores to start up his own agency in the very competitive American market. Coming up, our exclusive one-on-one with well-known ad man Matthew Bull.
News that moves. ENCA.com.